Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. And there's a man outside with a hammer who's been hammering away for a couple of hours. So it feels like this is the perfect time to go out to the library to get away from Mr. Hammer. I want to share the books I'm taking back to the library. So I am delighted to have actually read one of the books that I'm taking back to the library because I feel like recently I've just not been reading them before they're due back. So I'm taking back The Furies, which I read, and if all has gone according to plan, I have shared a vlog that includes this book. If things haven't gone according to plan, I love this book. Hopefully that video is up. I'm also returning because I'm nothing if not consistent. 2 books unread. Well, this one is unread because I'm not interested in reading it. It's the sort of long story short. And Crow Moon I started reading and I did not like it. Like instantly I wanted to DNF it. And both of these books are part of the Bloody Scotland debut prize shortlist, and I was planning to read that shortlist because I do every year, but I started with a book I really didn't like. I ended up DNFing it. I really don't want to read this book. And because I'm not buying books, I can only read what my library has, and they only have one more from the shortlist. And I kind of thought what a rubbish video that would be of a DNF, a book I'm going into really not interested, and maybe one book that might end up being enjoyed. So I thought, no, take them back to the library. Somebody else can read them and enjoy them. And I will still be celebrating Scottish crime fiction in September, but I will do it a different way. Maybe I'll share some recommendations or something, I don't know, but that's a problem for later. For now, I'm going to go and find a hat because it's threatening to rain. I will give you a little haul of my new books if I get any later when Chappie is not hammering outside. I'll be back in a bit. I showed great restraint at the library. I'm so proud of myself. I took my books back. I really like the librarians at my local branch. One of them really wanted to read Crow Moon, which I was returning back, DNF'd. And she was asking how I got on with it, and I was just like, So she had also fallen for the same trick as me of a gorgeous cover and a gorgeous sounding blurb. But I did tell her the reasons why I didn't enjoy the book, and I don't suspect she's gonna read it either now. She wanted to read the book for the same reasons I did, and I think, you know, I'd rather be honest and save somebody disappointment. I also picked up a really quick lunch from the shop next door. I ended up taking a slightly longer lunch break so I could go to the library and get home, which left me no time to eat my lunch. So I was eating at my desk, which is a habit that I have tried so hard to get out of. But every other day I've been taking my lunch away from my desk, so one day is okay. So I was eating my sandwich while I was working, and when I finished it, because I was so hungry, I just snarfed it down. I noticed that the date on that sandwich was yesterday. So I ate an out-of-date chicken sandwich, and let's just think non-food poisoning thoughts, because I don't have time for that. I also feel absolutely fine, but let's just keep a hopeful heart. I got one book at the library. I got The House of Mirrors by Erin Kelly, who, when I went to go mark this book on Goodreads as something I want to read, she's got like a whole gaggle of books that have been written, and I have not read any of them, so I'm in for a bit of a treat, I think. I can't stop coughing, that's great. Just because the air was weird outside. It's not the chicken sandwich, it's just the weird air. So apologies for the jumpy editing. I always have jumpy editing. It's who I am. This book, I think we're going to have some jumping timelines, which I really like. We have two friends. We have a very like studious main character who meets this kind of free spirited friend. They form this relationship in the 90s. So I don't know too much about what happens, but I know that there's murders and somebody ends up in prison. Don't know who. I'm gonna find out though. Then we have our current day setting where Karen is married, has a child, runs what sounds like a really cool sounding vintage dress shop, and she starts kind of being haunted by the past. And it turns out that something happened in the 90s between Karen and Biba, her bohemian aspiring actress friend, and things are about to be revealed. I'm hoping I'm gonna get my favorite trope of toxic friendship, and I'm really excited about this. I was supposed to be reading my new releases in this vlog, but this book came out in 2024, so that totally counts as a new release, right? And I can read it. You're agreeing with me, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can squeeze this in to this vlog because I already have two books. I'm partway through one of them already, but I already have two books that I really want to read for this video. But let's make it 3. I mean, let's try and make it 4. Why not just shoot for the moon? And then if I miss, I'll die among the stars. That's a horrible phrase. That's not the phrase, is it? I am off to go and get ready for this evening. I don't know why it took me a while to get my words out. I've got my video chat tonight with my friends. We have a monthly catch up where we just blather about what we've been reading, and it's the most gorgeous book club because you don't have to even have read anything. Sometimes people show up and they've not read anything because that's just life sometimes. Kind of like show and tell where there's no assigned reading. You just say like, I read this, it was great, or I read this and it was awful, or passable, or what is the term? Oh, I can't remember. There's some like quite sassy terms that we have. We have a giant spreadsheet as well. It's fantastic. And it's just a nice way of catching up with friends who are busy or, you know, across the country. And we get to kind of share books and what we've been enjoying. And I really like that. And it's really cool because it means that you get to like know what each other enjoys reading. So if I don't like something, I can be like, I know someone who's going to love this because historically they love this in a book, whereas I don't, and vice versa. I have a friend who she and I always polar opposites with books. There are very few occasions where we both enjoy the same book. It rarely happens. But it's so cool because it just means that if I hate something, I might know somebody who's going to love it. And I've had some really good recommendations from my friends who've hated books and been like, I think it's for you. And I was like, it is. So I'm gonna go get ready so I can go and have my catch up. Today feels a little bit like a day of achievements. Like, not, that feels a bit boastful, but I've done all the things I planned to do today. So I feel like that can only be a day of achievements. So today we had to go and pick up some coffee for the house, and we got a couple of bags, well, not a couple, I'm lying, we got 4 bags of coffee. That will keep us going for hopefully like, I don't know how long that'll last. At least a month. But we go through a lot of coffee and we know what we like. So we went and got some coffee in town to bring home, and we went out for brunch. We were kind of torn over where to go because we have 2 brunch places that we like in town, and we ended up going to Books and Beans, which is also a second-hand bookshop, and we've not been there since February, mainly because I was like, it's so hard for me not to buy books when I'm sitting enjoying a delicious brunch surrounded by books that I could purchase I did not buy any books, but I looked at them and my TBR list just got a little bit longer, but I showed great restraint. I had a tasty brunch and I'm still really full. I didn't have breakfast before we went out because I wanted to be ready for brunch, and it's almost dinner time and I'm still full. I got my usual, which is the McBride, because they name a lot of their dishes after authors. So a lot of their stuff is named after, like, they have a whole collection named after Scottish authors. And I tend to get the same thing, which is bacon, sausages, scrambled egg, beans, and toast. And there's tomatoes. Normally I get the tomatoes changed for mushrooms, but I forgot to ask this time. But it was tasty. I'm still full. I'm too full for dinner. I'll have something later. And then I came home and found that I had received a delivery. I got my toiletries sent to me by post because I ordered them online. I needed some stuff and I just thought, I'll just buy it, get it delivered, and then I don't have to walk into the lion's den that is Boots and walk past all of the delightful things that I want to stock up on, but I'm trying really hard not to. So I'm going to show you what I got. It's all things that are replacements, so all things that are allowed. I am sticking with my goals for the year, and I'm still feeling very, very, like, it's hard not buying things. I want to buy things, but replacing things, totally allowed. Most of these things I've not quite finished, but I'm going to finish them in the next, week. So I am running out of toner, which means I can buy my favorite toner because I have no more. This is a replacement. Pixie Rose Toner is my absolute favorite. My skin loves it and it smells nice. It doesn't need to smell nice because it's skincare, but it's a nice added bonus. My absolute favorite conditioner, even though my hair is not long anymore. I love this conditioner, and this is a bit of a bigger one. This is 300 mils. So this will hopefully last me quite a while. My pillow mist, I put this in the order and thought, oh wait, no, I don't need it. I'm okay. And then I was spraying my pillow mist this morning and I was getting like more air than anything because it's pretty much finished. So what I'm gonna do is just, there's the tiniest amount left in my old bottle. I'm just gonna pour it into here, and I'm so glad I got a replacement, even though I thought I didn't quite need to. And finally, I'm trying something new. My face wash has almost run out, so I thought I would try La Roche-Posay. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly. I know, like, I have over a 1,000 day streak on Duolingo for French. My French accent is atrocious. I speak French with a Scottish accent badly, really, really badly. I got this, which is a facial cleanser. It's a foaming facial cleanser. I have heard excellent things about this brand, and I actually wanted to get the L'Occitane facial cleanser, which is foaming, but they no longer have their eco refill. And I was like, well, I really liked buying it and then having the eco refill. So I thought, well, I'll try something new before going back to like my favorite, if I ever do go back to it. And I thought I would try this, as a little treat. It was much more expensive than I normally would go for a cleanser, but my skin sometimes wants a treat. And the last cleanser I bought was such a bargain that I feel that this kind of, it evens out, right? And then I came home and I was like, I am going to start my book. I have a book that I need to post on my Instagram page before this video comes up. And I was like, I'll start it now, and that way I've got like a week to read it. I finished it. Which I think is a good sign. I read Here Lies a Vengeful, not sure if I'm allowed to say that word, biatch. We still saying that? That's very 2010, by Cody Crowley. This is about Annie who wakes up dead one day and goes on a bit of a revenge spell. I love a little bit of a rage tale. I really enjoyed this book. I was expecting it to be horror, which was the reason I've been trying to get my hands on an e-copy of this book since January. Couldn't get one. And then I saw there was a book tour and I was like, please, I really want to read this book. I thought it was going to be horror though. It was described everywhere as being horror. It's not. It's a really good book. I had a fantastic time. Spoiler, I gave it 4 stars, but it's not horror. Unless maybe, like, I feel like it's horror in the way that Goosebumps are horror, in that as an adult, it's not scary, it's not creepy, it's enjoyable. But I wasn't like, you know, curled up under a blanket trying to hide from like the baddies or like tense at any moment. I really liked Annie as a character. She was very much kind of neglected as a child, so sort of sought like almost like a surrogate kind of family, and I really liked seeing her relationship with her blood family and like her chosen family. I also really liked the kind of, there was a lot of found family in this. We've got Annie has a very dysfunctional home life, or had. She's dead. A very dysfunctional home life. Her mother is not present overly in her life, and when she is, a very not supportive mother figure. So Annie kind of was taken in kind of like by her best friend and her best friend's dad, and in death Annie finds a new kind of family, and I thought that the found family in this element was just so charming, really kind of almost wholesome, if that makes sense. I really liked the twist that came at the halfway part of this book. I had kind of guessed it because I thought I was meant to know that, but it turns out I wasn't meant to know it, and I'd worked it out and I was like, oh, I win at reading today because I guessed a twist. And I really liked the setting. It was a small town setting, but there was this kind of like abandoned, almost like a village. Once there was a mill, but there is no more a mill, and there's just these houses that like people fled and just like left, and totally like a ghost town. And I kind of love stories with abandoned towns, so I really liked having an abandoned area in this book where Annie and her friends, or new friends, kind of new family I suppose, ended up just spending their time together. I really liked the mystery of Annie trying to piece together what happened, what led to her very violent death. And the list of suspects was not short. It was quite long, and I really enjoyed her journey to try and find out who killed her, why they killed her, and to enact revenge. The theme of friendship really continued through this book, which I enjoyed. I love a good power of friendship story. I had a really good time with this book. It's a YA book, and it was I would say it was more a mystery. Maybe like, could I call it a thriller? It was very amusing. There was a lot of moments where I was like chuckling away. The dialogue was super fun as well. I think this book is nice and sort of quotable, and I had a good time with it. So I'm very glad I managed to get my little mitts onto it. Although I was reading it last night just after doing skincare, and I was like, I'm getting like greasy paw prints all over the dust jacket. But I had a nice time with it. So I'm very glad I have read that. Later today, I'm gonna go and just rot for a little bit. It's been super hot today, so I'm gonna go sit downstairs and just turn my brain off for a wee while. I forgot to film. I didn't forget to film. I'm lying. I didn't film because I was busy. I was busy just spending time with the kids and my partner, and I didn't film yesterday, but I filmed today, and that makes up for it. We have actually had torrential rain today, which you might be able to hear. Maybe it might get picked up by the camera mic, and it was just so heavy. Like, I thought our back door was gonna flood because we've got like a step that's maybe like this big, but the rain was like an inch from the top, and then there was like a river going down the street that I live on, it was just so heavy and just pelting down, but it's kind of lifted, so that might be it. But I felt that it was my fault because I had a pumpkin spice latte yesterday, the first of the season, which for me means autumn is here. Goodbye summer, go away. And then we had torrential rain. So I feel very powerful because I totally think that I brought that on. I have some book updates as well. I have 2 books to talk about. I'm going to start with The Last Shield by Cameron Johnston. This is a Scottish author, a Scottish fantasy author, and I got this book as my first ever, like, advanced copy physical, I can't talk today, as my first ever physical advanced copy book that says, you know, like the date that it comes out. So like this book feels very special to me. I got this from the publishers who were like, I think you're gonna like this, so here you go. And I was like, wonderful. I love when people send me things they think I'm gonna like, and I loved it. This is a kind of gender swapped Die Hard set in a fantasy world. Our main character, Briar, is an older lady. She is like the captain of the guard of this castle, and she's a formidable warrior, and she is tasked with protecting the guardian of the heir to the throne, a role that she takes very, very seriously. When she is wounded in a failed assassination attempt, she basically has to just like rebuild herself. Her wee body is battered and broken, and she just has to kind of come to terms with the fact that she's never going to be able to fight in the way that she used to. Her body is just not going to let her do all of the things that she is used to doing and all of the things that she kind of needs to do in order to be able to do her job. So she decides that she's going to have to leave the castle. She can't do her job, and she doesn't want to do a job in admin because that's not her. It's like being too close to your dream job, but that's worse because you're so close to it, and she physically cannot battle anymore. Her body just won't let her. And on the day that she's supposed to be leaving, there's a siege, and a bunch of, let's call them baddies, invade the castle and try to just kind of take over and force the heir to the throne and his guardian to open this tomb. Within this tomb, there is a thing. They don't know what it is, but they want it. And Briar very quickly becomes their worst nightmare. Like, this is a woman who she can barely move from one side of a room to the next, but she is like, oh no, she goes full Red Ross in, it's always my reference, and I think people get the reference, maybe in Friends, when, like, spoiler, somebody eats his sandwich after Thanksgiving and he goes like full raging. And that's what I always think of when somebody just goes like, oh no, I've had enough. And this book is violent, very, very violent, but in a sort of good for her way. I couldn't help but root for Briar because, first of all, people discounted her because she was an older woman. And I'm like, she was the like head warrior, but you're like, oh, she's a woman. Yeah, a woman that can like beat your brains out. And 2, because she was physically injured, and she did not let that stop her. Oh no, her walking cane became a very, very sturdy weapon. This definitely did give me Die Hard vibes. Instead of crawling through like an air vent in a singlet, Briar was crawling through secret tunnels in a castle. I don't believe she was wearing a singlet, like like Bruce Willis, but it was a very, very enjoyable book with a very lovable character. There was an awesome scene with some crows, which, you know, that was probably my favorite part. And there is a dog who was just lovable, and the dog is okay. Need to let you know that the dog is totally okay. By the end of this book, the dog even gets a nice side of beef. He has a good time. But this was an absolute delight. I stayed up really late. I stayed up till almost midnight to read this on Saturday night actually. And I, yeah, highly recommend it. So I ended up giving this 4.5 stars, which not too bad for a weekend. And because I finished that on Saturday for almost Sunday morning, I had time to fit in another book. And I thought, well, come on, The House of Mirrors, why not? I DNF'd this book. I know. I only just got it and I was so excited. But this book is a sequel. There is nowhere on this book that says it's a sequel. There's nowhere on Goodreads or the StoryGraph or even Amazon. Nothing says that this book is a sequel. Even the blurb, nothing. So how was I to know that this was a sequel? Unless I'd read everything by this author, which I haven't. There are very few living authors where I've read all of their books. I'm not going to go on a tangent and try and think of some. There probably are some. No, right. Back to the task at hand. This book, it turns out, is a sequel to The Poison Tree, which I believe came out over 10 years ago. This book only came out this year. And I didn't realise at first, because how would I? And I was reading this, just sort of thinking there's a lot of like assumed knowledge. So this book surrounds a couple who back in the 90s, there was an event that happened where a murder happened, and the husband ended up going to prison, and they have a daughter. This is set like 25 years later and kind of focuses more on the daughter and the mother. But I'm sort of reading this being like, these people are very haunted by the events that resulted in the prison sentence. But there were a lot of like gaps that I was like, is that relevant? It feels like I need to know a little bit more about what happened in the past. And the book didn't really have flashbacks. Like I made it halfway through this and was still like very, very lost. And then I did something I rarely do with books, where I had a look at the reviews. And that is where I learned that this was a sequel, because The Poison Tree is about the exact same characters, but focuses on the husband getting out of prison. And in that book, you find out what happened back in the 90s. So I had to go and read spoilers on the review for The Poison Tree so that I could get a grasp of what was happening in this book. And then I thought, wait, this is a lot of like supplementary reading I'm doing in order to enjoy a book that I wasn't really enjoying, because I didn't like the characters at all. I just thought they were very one note. Like they each had like one personality type. So the mother was bossy, the husband was quiet, the daughter was spoiled. But that was it. And I feel like if I had either enjoyed the story a bit more or enjoyed the characters a bit more, I probably would have stuck at it. But I was like, nah, I've read half of it. I'm not enjoying it. I would be shocked if I would, you know, rate it more than like 2 stars by that point. So I thought, I'm just gonna give up. I saw a review that said that this would work as a standalone, and I don't think it does. I think that it kind of, you need to know that it's maybe not an official sequel, but if it picks up where the last book left off, I think that's like textbook definition of being a sequel. So that was kind of disappointing. And I feel like I'm ending this vlog having read, well, 2 books that I ended up giving overall 4 stars to, and then a DNF. And I think, well, that's still pretty good, right? I'll take that. But I feel kind of bad ending on a low note. But sometimes that's what happens. This book didn't work for me. And I think if you've read The Poison Tree, you might enjoy this book because it gives you a little bit more sort of what happened next. But for me, I haven't read that book. I'm probably not going to. So I was just left a little bit lost, confused, and a little disappointed because I felt I felt enticed by something that wasn't being quite straight up and being like, hey, I'm a sequel. Because I wouldn't pick it up if it was a sequel, because I would then have looked and found the first book and gone from there. But oh well, it happens. I'd love to know what you've been reading lately, and if you've read The Poison Tree, maybe you want to read The House of Mirrors. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!